Hello and welcome to the Story Heroes podcast. Today we have with us someone very, very special, a guy who actually taught me, how to do the podcasting thing. Who actually, really, I would say, influenced me. Because when I had my first podcast, it was with him. I would say a few months ago. Please welcome Farrukh Ahmed. Hey, Farrukh, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Farrukh, it's a pleasure, really. And I actually never thought that I will have a podcast show where I will invite you because you are a guru, in this, I would say, industry. and
No,
and
man,
you
we're
also
both
started a
learning. We're all
podcast,
learning.
and you also started a podcast, a while ago. We'll talk about that. So, Farrukh,
Yeah.
the thing is, you wear many hats. You also have a day job. I would say, as a banker since many years.
Yes.
You're
Correct.
also a
Correct.
podcaster, correct? You're also a tech, I would say, evangelist and enthusiast, correct? And you also, love to talk about, coaching, business coaching, executive coaching. So you wear many hats. But if I have to ask you, who is Farrukh Ahmed? What exactly you will say?
Well, that's an interesting question. And so the way I would like to define myself is just being a very inquisitive and an eager kind of guy who likes to learn. That's the most important thing, I believe. And I just look around myself for something new that I can learn every day. So
Right.
they say, you should do something that you're afraid of every single day. And I try to find those things in terms of learning and learn, what's so scary about stuff and why is it so scary and how are people excelling in different areas, and then explore and then move on
Right, I understand.
to
So,
yeah.
so Farooq, you come from Pakistan and then you moved to UAE, right?
Yes, yes. I come from Pakistan, Karachi,
Hmm.
born and raised, educated, everything over there. I moved to UAE. So I've had two stints in UAE.
Hmm.
The first one was for just a couple of years from 2005 to 2007.
Hmm.
And then now from 2014 onwards, I am back here. And both have been in the corporate world.
Right, understand. So, Farooq, how? Okay, I understand that you work, in the corporate world. I think you still do, right? So, but how did this idea come into your mind to start a podcast? What was the tipping point that you said, you know what, I'm going to do this?
So yeah, so actually what happened was it didn't really start from podcasting or any kind of broadcasting mindset at all. It was just that I have been lucky enough to be around people who talk about positivity, who talk about improving and contributing to the society. And as a result of that, we used to have excellent set of communications and discussions in friends. And so it was a friend of mine who was migrating to Canada, and so we were just meeting up before she left, and we were having a great discussion. And my wife came up with the idea, and she was like, we should record this conversation, and that's about it. So we just thought, that was a good thing to share with other people. I had absolutely no experience. I had some background in music production and studio recording. I used that knowledge, but then podcast is a slightly different ball game altogether. But that helped, and that's about it. That's We just recorded it. We just I had never been in front of a camera. She had never been in front of a camera, so it looks super awkward. If anybody wants to go and watch it, it's on my YouTube channel. It's the very first episode of the podcast, and we're both super uptight and everything, but but that's how it starts. I mean, everybody starts somewhere, and I still cherish the fact that we actually went ahead and did that episode, because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
No, no, absolutely. And Farooq, when you started the podcast, and then I think you brought in so many guests, in your series. There's so many episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you met different people, from different background, including me. So what was that one point that you feel that this is something that is fulfilling? That you are talking to people, you get different ideas, and you share it, of course, with the audiences. Of course, they listen to the podcast. So what is one
Yeah.
thing that you feel, man, this is what I was looking for. This is the kick that it gives me from the podcast.
Well, I think, like I said, I love to learn new things. And the best thing was that I got to meet so many great people. Two of my guests turned out to be really good friends later
Amazing,
on. And the
amazing.
three of us host a YouTube show together. So that
Yes.
turned on. So one thing leads to another. But the best thing is the kind of people that you meet and the energy that you absorb from them and then pass it out to other people. That's what I love about it. And just the fact that you realize that there is so much of good around you. It's just about your perspective and the way you look at the world. You can find positivity and negativity, and I chase positivity, and I chase motivation, and I chase inspiration, and that's what I want to give to the people that I connect with. And so the podcasting world, it has the podcasters around the world, not just in UAE. The podcaster community has helped a lot. They've encouraged, they share tips, they share even, sometimes guests that should be on a particular type of podcast and things like that. So I've been seeing your podcast episodes. You got a couple out, and I wish you all the best. And so you would be realizing and maybe experiencing those things now. As you
Yes, yes,
connect
yes.
and as you connect in the podcasters community, it's a very generous community, that I would say. People don't think about, oh my God, he's gonna start a podcast, he's gonna eat my share of the pie. I always say pie is always big enough for everybody.
No, no, absolutely. And I think because in this podcasting world, when some people are doing the monologue, some are bringing the guests. I think every person has a different perspective, something special to share
Yeah.
about. And I think that is where we come into the picture, and we try to bring the best out of people. I think that's how we can help
Mhm.
also in the community. Talking about the
Yeah.
community, Farooq, I think now you have also started the leadership coaching, the business coaching that you're doing, executive coaching, I would say, right? Tell us more about it.
Actually, I'd like to step back. Actually, why did I start doing it, and how did I feel that I can bring a change in people's lives?
Mm-hmm.
So while I was growing up, I'm a type A personality,
Mm-hmm.
which means I cannot sit still. I cannot. I don't like monotonous things.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was growing up, the kids around me, we the 80s and the 90s kids, we were getting exposed to a whole new world of technology, and a lot of new stuff coming in. Earlier there was just one single channel on the television, and then suddenly there were a whole lot of them.
Yeah, the cable
Then the
TV, the
computer.
Walkmans, and the Discmans.
Yes, yes. And then the computers started coming to our houses in between early to mid 90s, something like that.
Yes.
So all of that was changing very rapidly. But I used to see that a lot of people around my age used to get, uh, you know, uh, playing cricket. Every street in Karachi was essentially a cricket ground, cricket, hockey, things like that
Yes.
were there, or there were those arcade shops with video games, and people used to hang out over there. But somehow I never got stuck to that. So I
Okay.
would look at a couple of things, and then I would understand them, and then I would just move on to the next and next things. So during that time, I taught myself to play 6 instruments without any coach, without
Wow.
any guide. There was
Wow.
no internet at that time.
Amazing.
So yeah, so the keyboards, the guitars, the bass, drums, tabla, and other percussion instruments.
Amazing.
Uh, so so the reason I think behind that was that I was able to somehow, maybe it came naturally to me, was able to manage all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the music and other hobbies, learning as the computer came into our household, learning about that, building our own first PC. You've gone through it, I'm sure.
Hmm.
So I would just not want to waste time, basically. If I didn't like sitting idle. And then with time, I realized when I got into the corporate world, I realized that I was able to manage time in a way and get more time for myself at work and at home as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, later on, I came across some coaches and videos where people talked about time management and productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, uh, I think I've already been doing it.
Right.
And I found some issues in a lot of self-help guides,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought could be worked upon and made more specific to people,
Okay.
result oriented. So that's
Okay.
how it all started. And then I got connected to a lot of people who were struggling in managing time and productivity, practically at work, my colleagues, my friends. And they would like, how the hell are you maintaining all of these things? So while you're working the same job as us, you're playing gigs in the evening,
Yes.
So my uncle from my mom's side got me hooked onto cars, building cars. So I was building classic cars. I had a workshop of my own. So all of those things were going on side by side, and I was like, I don't think about these things because maybe it comes naturally. But that's how it actually started, and I started to actually structurize those things, and then take them out to people. And I'm happy that people like it, and I hope that it helps people at the end of the day. And as far as coaching goes, I think that runs in the blood. I come
Hmm.
from a family of educationists,
Hmm.
both from my mother's side and my father's side.
Right.
Educationists, professors, and all of that. So I found it very natural when I was
Okay.
talking to people or when I was coaching. It really gave me that kind of, satisfaction. So, so I thought, why not use all of that and then use technology in terms of having webinars, having
Hmm.
podcasts related to these motivation and inspirational messages, and then bring them out to the people and actually help them. Because once you get into the corporate rut, it's very difficult. You see people, particularly bankers, they're at work till late night, practically have absolutely no family life. And I think there's a lot of improvement that people can do in their time management and productivity to get the most out of themselves. There's a lot of potential in people that gets hidden down and suppressed because of these things.
Right.
So that's how I got into it, basically.
Great. So Farooq, it's a great story. Actually, I must say that it is very interesting to find out that when the kids were not, thinking about, let's say, learning, musical instruments, and they were playing games, you actually selected the musical instruments. You could have chosen something else also. So
Yes.
so what's there in music that actually said, "Hey, Farooq, come to me, come learn what I have to offer." So what
I
was
think the
connected
fact
with
that it
music?
was not, yeah, the fact that it was not allowed in our house.
Wow, it's amazing.
So yeah, so we were kept away from music. So we were allowed to watch only certain programs on the TV
Mm,
at specific times after we had done our homework. So my father was never
amazing.
against it, but he never supported it. My
Right.
grandfather was strictly against it. So
Okay.
there was absolutely no chance, or any chance of getting introduced to anything music till he passed away. I think 1988 or something.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
and after that, my father would never support it. I mean, he wouldn't stop me, but he wouldn't support it.
Hmm.
And then because of that, I had that curiosity. So, like I said, I was a curious guy,
Hmm.
and I had the curiosity. And then that was a time in Pakistan when the music was really changing its pace into the modern kind of rock pop
Right.
music.
Right. Right. Yes.
Bands
Yes. Yes.
like Vital Signs, Nadia
Yeah.
and Zohaib, and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Junoon,
Yes.
all of them were coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so growing up, we were super fascinated by the kind of life that projected. And I was like, I got to learn this. I got to learn how to play. And in the beginning, of course, there was no access to any instrument. And so I couldn't tell my folks that I was going to a concert. So I would just go and crash in. And then I used to stay. I remember I used to stand right in front of the stage, the first row, and everybody would be jumping around, and I'd be standing like this, hands tied, and focusing on the guitar player,
Right. Right. Right.
going on the fretboard and trying to remember what he's playing, and on
Wow.
the way back repeating that on the fingers. And then at home, I just had a wooden board with strings drawn by with a pencil, and that's it. So uh, that's how it started. Then I got an access to a guitar and a keyboard at a music school that opened up near our place, and that's it. So that's it all started. But once I got the instrument at home, actually my father bought me my first instrument, and then he said, because you are so desperate in it, I'll buy you a keyboard,
Oh, that's awesome.
and
That's really
that's
awesome.
it. That's it. So I learned from there, and then upgraded to other instruments and so on and so forth.
Right. So Farooq, now you're a banker, and in your, let's say, day job, and I would say you are a nomad in your after hours. You know, I would like to use this word, right? Okay. So the
True.
thing is, you started with such passion at such young age when you were a kid, with the music you were attached. So what exactly it is that has stopped you not to pursue it also professionally? Like today, I would have imagined that you are playing, let's say, with Junoon, for example, or with all these bands, like,
Oh, that
because
would be a
they,
dream come true, right?
yeah, that would have been a dream come true. So what was the point that when you decided, okay, you know what, this is not my career, this is more like a hobby?
So that's a great question. So there are multiple elements to it, and that's what I try to tell people around me as well when
Hmm.
I'm consulting somebody or I'm guiding somebody. That's what I say. You don't have to get hung up on a particular thing.
Right.
Let me put it in a slightly different way before we move on.
Hmm.
You being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
you're also mentor to new startups. And then you would know a new startup coming in and talking to you
Hmm.
about an idea which you, because of your experience, know is not going to work.
Yes.
But sometimes people are obsessed beyond reasoning,
Yes.
and they will come to you and say, whatever excuse they could come up with, they were going to say, no, this is going to work. I did my
Yes.
research. I asked my parents, I had my siblings, I had my two friends. That's it. My market research is done. So, but you would know based on your experience.
Hmm.
So the issue is, if people get hung up on an idea and let go of other opportunities by, sometimes, they got to have that wake up call. And
Okay.
otherwise, it's going to be harmful in the long run.
Hmm.
So with music, so a couple of things happened. So while I was learning instruments, I also wanted to understand the technicalities of recording music, because
Hmm.
I used to think, my God, how do these guys get in the studio and record all of this stuff?
Okay.
So then I just started, I randomly went to recording studios in Karachi, and I knocked their door and I said, hey, I'm here. I want to learn audio engineering, recording engineering. Just let me sit quietly on one corner and observe you. And then with time, I made friends there, and then I learned the art of music production and
Hmm.
recording. But music in Pakistan was not, I would say, still not mature enough to the point that it can actually be a full-time career.
Right.
It's extremely difficult
Hmm.
to survive. And especially at that time, as we were growing, we needed to realize that fact.
Hmm.
So I was not hung up on being a musician for my life. I wanted to learn music for, I would say, slightly above the hobby level,
Hmm.
semi-professional maybe, so that I'm able to uh, play, practice, and enjoy whatever I like, the kind of music, maybe record some songs here and there. And so it was never the fact that I should only and only do this. If it
Okay.
had gone in that direction in terms of the infrastructure of the country and the way things were turning out, why not?
Yeah.
But then
Understand.
I would not stay hung up on it. I moved on to other things. I moved on to the corporate world, pretty much just like everybody does. But then, uh, and that was because of music and because of playing gigs, is I think I am now, and that's manifesting into what I'm doing now, because all of that thing about not having a stage fright and being able to connect with people and actually looking for that kind of energy from other people, I think that's helping now. So whatever you learn does never goes to waste. But the thing is, you need to understand how to apply all of that.
No, no, absolutely. So Farooq, I have always believed that when you mix, art with business, or in any kind of business acumen, right? That is a deadly mixture. So, for example, let's say Steve Jobs used to say that we are a liberal arts company that does technology, and that's called Apple,
Mm.
right? In my younger days, my background also, I was actually also an actor. I did a lot of
Oh,
plays
great.
in Aptech when I was studying there. I used to write plays, and that time I was a very mediocre engineer, not a great engineer. But before that, I was actually an actor. So doing
Hmm.
plays and doing acting, writing the plays, scripts and all. Camera will come from here. All those motion lighting and all that.
Oh, great,
And
great.
today, when I do business, that part of me that is inside, the artist inside you, it actually kicks in at right time, and it tells you
Yes,
this
exactly.
is what it is, in terms of
Mm.
aesthetics, let's say,
Yeah.
in terms of web design, application development, even in terms of business, doing business, it really
Mm.
helps. So I'm sure the artist inside you, that is of course a lot bigger than, I would say, that is in me, because you do a lot with art than what I do. I'm sure it really helps you also in your day job, and it really helps you to think, I would say, better in a more creative manner, right?
Oh, of course. Particularly, arts, what I believe teaches people is patience.
Yes.
Uh, so, because when you're rehearsing in silos, when nobody's watching you, you're practicing, if you're not patient, then you're not going to stick to it. So, patience is one thing. The other thing is thinking out of the box. That's where creativity comes in. So, when
Yes.
you're looking at corporate solutions, when you're developing a product, that's what it really matters, because at the end of the day you are just another competitor in the market, and the
Yes.
only way to differentiate yourself is to do something out of the box, and that's where that creativity comes in.
No,
So it
absolutely.
naturally helps.
Yeah.
Whatever skills you learn along the way in your life definitely helps.
Right.
But
So
people tend to go with very tunnel vision and say,
no,
"Oh, I'm a
absolutely.
corporate guy. I'm supposed to be thinking exactly how I've seen my elders do in the industry," and that's why you don't see a lot of innovation happening.
No, totally. I totally agree with you, Farooq. And coming back to the executive coaching, Farooq. So now, how do you deliver that coaching? And normally, how do people approach you for that? Please tell us more about how it works.
So, good thing is, in my day job as well, I do a lot of training and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So even at the organization, I do trainings for the product, for the processes, and at the same time, a lot of soft skills, particularly for our customer facing staff. It could be sales, could be our call center staff, those kind of people who have a high stress, kind of a thankless job, how to stay
Mm-hmm.
motivated, how to optimize their sales pipelines and things like that. So one is that. Second is that because of my podcast and because of webinars that I do online, uh, people then approach when they're stuck in a sort of a whirlpool going down the circle. So a person, somebody might be earning an amazing amount of money in the corporate world, but then they're not happy in terms of the balance between their
Mm-hmm.
work life and their personal life. And then they would then approach and say, what do I do? How do I you know find out the perfect balance? I can't quit my job. I have a lot of responsibility. It's paying all my bills. At the same time, the kind of job there is, it requires a lot of time, and I don't get time for work, things like that. So then my what I try to help them in is, first of all, see how the day goes in the office,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of time wasted in between meetings and in between waiting for other people's responses, and then just sometimes you realize you're taking a small break, and then that extends to a couple of hours being wasted. So how
Right.
to optimize that?
Mm-hmm.
How to so I mean, people think that my situation is different from everyone. I really can't afford it. But think of the most busiest people that you can think of around the world.
Mm-hmm.
you know think of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
How many companies is he running? How much time do you think would he have? But
Mm-hmm.
these people, think of George Bush,
Mm-hmm.
former US president. He used to read 100 books in a year.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Think of the Facebook's COO, Sheryl Sandberg. Every single night she has dinner with her family.
Right.
She runs, you know. So then I would ask, Amar, are you that busy that you can't get home? And Sheryl Sandberg can get home? It's just about how you manage it, right? So that's where it starts. And then of course everybody's different, and then you realize you have to get in their mind. You have to empathize with the kind of situation that they are in, help them find the door. No coach, no executive coach, no performance coach is going to walk through the door or take your hand and walk you through the door, but our job is to show you the door. The
Right.
first thing is you have to be ready to make a change in your life.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a very interesting line of thinking, Farooq, because now we're going through a very different change, right, in the whole world in terms of, I would say, COVID. I really don't like the word the new normal because because
Mm.
it has been used and abused to, I would say,
Oh yes.
some extent, right? So this new, let's say, style of living and working. A lot of companies, they have pledged that they will allow their employees to work from home if they like
Hmm.
forever, for example. And some
Hmm.
people, if they like, they can come to work, they can come to office as well. So I have also gone through a very different, paradigm shift in terms of how I used to do business 7 months ago, as compared to what I do now. So how do you
Hmm.
see this thing, going forward? Because I believe people are now learning online, right? And I'm sure people who provide any kind of education, any kind of knowledge, right,
Hmm.
online, I think that's the next, I would say, big thing. It was big before also, but now it's even
Yeah.
bigger. I would say the whole bubble of online education. Where do you see the
Hmm.
future of work from here? Because you are very close to work life, and you're as
Yeah.
close to the soft skills, and you're even closer to the personal life also. So
Yeah.
you're the best person to comment on that, right? So what's the future of this?
The future of a C. So again, um, now 2020 people are really scared of
Hmm.
what's going to happen. We have practically just 1 quarter remaining,
Mm-hmm.
and people are still saying, at this rate we really can't predict what's going to happen in the next last quarter. Are there going to be any more surprises? Is this thing going away anytime soon? But you see, the way I look at it is 2020, people want to cancel this year. They're saying,
Okay.
we don't want to remember this year. I put it slightly differently. I say 2020 is the year that we woke up.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
So don't cancel the year that you woke up,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And and 2020 is something that has redefined not just the work environment, but your personal and your social environment as well.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if you go back to the early 1900s, 1920s, and all of that, there was a lot of development happening, in terms of the industries and finances and the all of that. And then suddenly the Great Depression hit in the late 20s.
Mm.
Nobody knew what's going to happen. And
Hmm.
once that was over, that's when we saw the biggest trajectory in terms of growth.
Yes.
Suddenly you had these huge big cars, luxury muscle
Hmm.
era came in.
The industries, the revolution
Beatles
happening.
came
Yeah.
in. Yeah. So music happened. Elvis came in.
Yes.
Beatles, they completely redefined the landscape of practically everything:
Yes.
arts, industries, education, everything. Right. 2020 is the year, just like that.
Hmm.
It's gonna completely redefine the way the world looks 50 years from now.
Right.
And if you don't get on the bandwagon now, you're gonna get left behind. So there are still people in corporate world, senior managements, people who still think the conventional way, who would actually, not be comfortable with stuff, staying at home, because they think all of my people are going to do is just party
Hmm.
if you're at home. But then there are companies, it's the Kodak mentality basically.
Hmm.
So people who realize the great thing about this is that the companies which were not too keen on getting on the digital bandwagon were forced to do it overnight, including schools, for example, right?
Right.
And that opens such a big horizon in front of us. Suddenly, you know that you are really, really not restricted to a geographical location for productivity. You do not have to get stuck in traffic. Living in Dubai, you and I, we
Hmm.
face that every day. Hours and hours of getting stuck in traffic.
Yes.
you know you can save all of that time and put that in production for your company, and then have extremely productive staff. And there's research done on that as well. The productivity is at least 130%
Hmm.
if employees work from home,
Right.
right? So I think the future of not just organizational environment, but also learning, and in education, in social setting, everything, it's going to be good, provided the people take it in positivity and people realize that this is a new and better way for me to actually engage. You and I are sitting here across on a Zoom call doing our podcast. I have been doing my podcast all in physical setting, recording. So I like to meet my guests. So I have a studio, and I invite my guests over there. That's how we met on your podcast when you were
Yes.
with me. So we meet there in a physical setting. But then if somebody is not available, somebody's busy, it's difficult travel time and all of that, then what do? Then you push it off and you lose on the opportunity. Here we are, so absolutely no issues, no logistical mobility issues.
Hmm.
And then we're doing practically the same thing, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think in terms of how it's going to help out in future, I do like to talk about how it's going to affect the classroom,
Hmm.
both professional as well as vocational, in terms of universities and schools. So particularly in professional element, our attention span, we do realize it has gone down like crazy. We are on our phones
Hmm.
every single day. We unlock our phones 80 to 100 times a day.
Yeah.
We spend 4, 5, 6 hours of screen time a day.
Hmm.
Our attention spans in the 20 years from today, in the early 2000s, was probably 30, 40 minutes. And by the way, that's the background of why school classes are 40 minutes or 45 minutes long, because that's how long the students can retain attention. But now it's practically down from 40 minutes to just 4 minutes.
Hmm.
And you see that on social medias, so Insta stories are like 30-second, 1 minute, Twitter allows 1 minute video, so and so forth. So you got to put your message across in 40 minutes, or sorry, 4 minutes, and actually hook people into listening to you. So I think the way the coaching and learning industry is going, they will also have to adapt this. You do not need to bring your employees in a classroom and have somebody point on a PowerPoint presentation on the projector and roam left, right, up and down in the auditorium and expecting people to retain what he's presenting. Just have shorter bursts of information thrown out to them on their phones, so they're not tied to the office network. They can look at it while traveling through the metro or in the back of a cab or lying down on their couch in the evening. Just a 5 minute session. They learn something. The higher chances of them retaining it. So that's going to happen, and that's already happening. And that's also something that I would really like some company to start off and develop a kind of a platform that that helps. So that's going to be there. Meetings are already much more productive. I have
Hmm.
for a very long time in my corporate environment tried to implement the stand up meeting routines. So I
Okay.
avoid getting into meeting rooms. I'd rather have people stand, discuss, and that's about it. That's the most efficient way of doing meetings. Otherwise you just end up gossiping.
Yes.
So, and that has, because of things like Zoom and Teams calls, it has become a lot more productive as well. So,
Sure.
so there is a lot of change that's happening.
Right. So, Farooq, we are coming to an end to this, podcast. But as people say in the end, that what's your message to the people? I think you have given so many messages in this short time. I will ask you one question. I think that is a
Sure.
very valid question, and to be asked to someone like you. So, Farooq, as
Hmm.
you know, at the moment we are going through this, I would say, economic meltdown, you can say, or let's say economic challenges, that companies are letting people go, they are sending them on furlough, or even laying them off, right? A lot of people are now skilled people, amazingly skilled people are now going jobless, right? Some of
Hmm.
them choose what they will do. They will look for another job, or they start their own business, whatever it is. But some people, you'll say, I would say most of the people, they are clueless. Like 80%
Yes,
of them, they
correct.
have no idea what to do, because they were having this job routine for so many years that now it's like, hang on, what's going on with me, right? So
Hmm.
so what is your message to them?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you very much for asking this. So Amar, here's the thing. We have so many examples of industries going bust because they
Hmm.
were stuck to a single mindset.
Yes.
You know, who would have thought while we were growing up, who would have thought that someday Nokia and BlackBerry are not going to be in the picture?
Yes.
Who would have thought that Kodak is not going to be in the picture?
Yes.
You know, and the reason that happens is because that you're stuck in that one single frame of mind, and
Mhm.
you try to warp the world around you into thinking that I'm going in the right direction and the world needs to follow me or wrap around me.
Right.
That's not what happens, and 2020 is the best example of that.
Hmm.
So my message to not just the people who are clueless, but also all the more to the people who are actually understanding the this paradigm shift.
Hmm.
today is, we used to always talk about, being the master of one skill and that's about it.
Okay.
But the growing change, not just in 2020, but I think in the past 2 decades, has clearly shown us that yes, it's good to be a master, but at the same time, you need to have some parallel skills as well to support that, or to be able to divert into those fields if required. Take a simple example. You're producing your podcast, so you're recording, you set up the camera, everything. You're going to process the audio, you'll do your
Yes.
marketing, you're going to publish it, all of that. So essentially, just in this small podcast, you're actually doing the job of at least 7 or 8 people.
Right.
And you learned that, right? It's not
Hmm.
that difficult.
Yeah.
So so if you so if you look at it from the corporate world, people who are getting redundant, that's it's extremely unfortunate for them.
Hmm.
I wish and pray and hope that everybody is able to retain their jobs, was
Hmm.
able to actually grow actually in their
Hmm.
jobs. But then at the same time, they need to understand that in order to be retained, in order to be valuable, in order to be the person that the company will keep no matter what the costs are,
Hmm.
they need to build multiple skills,
Right. Yes.
right? So somebody working in, let's say, marketing department, that's a big cost center of any organization,
Hmm.
right? So if you've got to reduce your costs, what do? You let people go from your cost centers,
Hmm.
right? So somebody working in a marketing department or any other cost center should be able to understand how, for example, the product works, not just
Hmm.
how marketing works. So
Hmm.
maybe they can plug into some other area.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, so the people who are thinking on those lines, people who are growing their skills, and I think this is the best time now to grow your skills because A, it is a wake up call. B, the channels and the methods of learning are so much easier now. You don't have to walk into an institute. You don't have to tie yourself to a classroom.
Hmm.
You don't have to tie yourself to a time. You're coming back home at, let's say, worst case scenario, 8 or 9 at
Hmm.
night. What do you do? And you sleep at 12 o'clock. What do you do from 8 to 12? That's 4 hours. Do you just watch Netflix?
Hmm.
Or do you read a book or go through a course or reach out to some mentor, somebody, some guide, some coach who can actually guide you? People can waste their energies, people can waste their money and time trying to go here and there and try multiple things, or they can reach out to somebody who can actually guide to them, who will guide them in the right direction, what to do, how to do it, how to effectively do it, and things like that. you know so I think the message is just explore yourself, just try to find your potential, and this may be the time where you actually make that paradigm shift in your life, and you go towards what you've always wanted to do, what your hidden talent is, and then that will boost you into unparalleled level of successes.
Incredible, Farooq. That is, I think, a very life-changing message, I must say. And on this life-changing message, Farooq, I must tell you that you are the hero of your story. Like
Oh
whatever
man,
you have done so
thank you
far
so much.
in your life, I think it is so fulfilling to understand how you connect the dots between, let's say, the childhood, the arts, the music that you produce, that you play with, the podcast that you do, the work that you do, I'm sure in your organization, the coaching that you do. I think all that is so incredible, and I really love how you think about the future, right? And thank you very much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a great time.
It's a pleasure, Farooq. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.